He's a cryptographer and professor at Johns Hopkins University. And he was asked by the university to take down a blog post he had produced about the NSA spy agency. Professor Mathew, before we talk about what happened to you and your blog, just a brief reaction to this revelation of data sharing with Israel, yet another leak coming out as a result of Snowden's actions. What do you think Americans will make of that? The fact that it was all unfiltered, it was information about Americans going to Israel?
Well, I think what we're learning is that, no matter what we think about the story, we can't get a fix on it, and the story keeps changing. I think that's probably the most upsetting part. We don't know who our data is being shared with and who is spying on who at this point.
Let's talk about you then. You're a cryptographer. What exactly do you do, and what was it about your post that caused the universe to react? What did you write?
Well, I wrote a post about these new revelations that came out last week about the NSA breaking encryption, breaking cryptography. That's my research area, so one of the things I do is I write a blog that's focused at technical people, but also at journalists and people who aren't, cryptographers themselves. I try to explain these complicated terms and try to explain what this all means. So I tried to take a pass at this story and explain what it meant that the NSA was breaking this technology. And that led to the blog post, which a lot of people read.
And what does it mean? What does it mean? What is the NSA up to then? Briefly, don't get too complicated, but what is this initiative that they're supposedly carrying out, a clandestine operation?
Well, I think what we learned is that the NSA has a hard time breaking encryption. So what they've done is they've actually tried to take the products that perform encryption and make them worse, make them weaker, so that it's easier for them to break that encryption.
And what sort of areas we're talking about? People using smartphones, is it emails and even medical records, that sort of thing, anything?
Everything you just mentioned. Smartphones are specifically mentioned. Your web browsing, when you're using your Gmail account, for example, the connection is supposed to be encrypted. Email going across the web, all of those things.
But this doesn't really come as a big surprise. And we knew that the NSA was spying on people. So is this a major revelation, or is this something that we should really accept happens every day?
Well, I think what we learned is that the NSA is willing to make U.S. security a little bit weaker. Because remember, it's not just non-U.S. citizens who are using these products. It's Americans too, and they're willing to, in a sense, put our credibility on the line, our entire industry on the line, in order to access the communications of whoever it is they want to listen to.
And when you posted this blog, the university reacted very quickly. Did it explain why, or do you think it was being forced to react?
I don't know. I mean, the internet tends to make a big deal of these things. Somebody somewhere made a decision that there might be classified material on this blog. The instinct was to shut the blog down rather than to sort of investigate that. I think that was a mistake. I don't think I'll ever know exactly where that came from, and I hope it never happens again. But
you will carry on blogging and posting material that you think is perfectly legitimate and should be read by people?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what about the idea, though, that, of course, that people think the whole initiative is to fight terrorism, it's to protect national and personal security. Don't we have to accept that surveillance has to happen these days?
Well, I understand that we have a big debate ahead of us. How much spying? I mean, there's a range anywhere from 0% spying to 100% spying, and I think we have to figure out what the right balance is. I think what we're learning is that the American public is not comfortable with what we're learning about that balance.
Just briefly, you're a cryptographer. I find it a very difficult word to say. Can you stop yourself being hacked, being tracked? Is there any way, even an expert like yourself, to secure yourself? Just briefly.
Move down to the basement, buy a computer, and never, ever use the internet. That's the best advice I can give you.
Thanks very much indeed. Professor Mathew Green of Johns Hopkins University, live here on RT. Great to talk to you. Thank you.